Hello and welcome once again to the India Today Conclave. Few, if any, constitutional posts at the moment in the country carry the weight of public expectations and the microscope of public scrutiny as much as that of the Chief Justice of India and, dare one say, the Supreme Court itself. Not a day passes when the apex court doesn't make the headlines in some form or the other. So how do those who have worn what some might argue is now a crown of thorns see the role of the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India in particular? Today we'll be listening to three Chief Justices of India, two former recent Chief Justices and the current Chief Justice in the course of this day. Please therefore welcome our first guest, Justice S.A. Bobde, Chief Justice of India from November 2019 to April 2021. Justice Bobde, welcome to the India Today Conclave. Am I right in suggesting that the Chief Justice's post today is a crown of thorns, constantly under scrutiny and therefore seemingly under immense pressure as well?
Well, the thorns, if any, poked by the media.
I see.
It is a difficult place to be in, the Chief Justice of India. But, and it is a heavy responsibility. There's too much competition for the court's ears. And obviously everybody wants to win his case. But I'm saying this frankly, without any disrespect. The problems really arise from the somewhat irresponsible comments judges have to face. And the Chief Justice is always answerable. Anything that happens in the court is the Chief Justice who is responsible.
Now, you seem to be almost suggesting that Bechara Chief Justice.
No, not at all.
You know,
I was just telling you, just carrying forward your analogy of thorns.
Yes.
I said the post itself, there's no thorns on the post. Those thorns are what you get from the onlookers.
Okay, the onlookers will probably turn around and say that the fact is many judgments in this country at the moment are tangled in political wars. You were, for example, part of the Ayodhya judgment. And the nature of the case, the kind of politics that had swirled around Ayodhya for decades meant inevitably whatever judgment you delivered, there was going to be some kind of a political fallout to it.
That's so in every case.
But is that part of the problem, that because the Supreme Court today increasingly finds itself tangled in taking up these political cases, whether it is Rafale, whether it is the Ayodhya judgment, because these cases come eventually to the Supreme Court, the court almost inevitably and the Chief Justice inevitably finds himself caught in a political battle?
Well, I would like to say that the word label political can be attached to anything. I see nothing political about the Ayodhya case. The case, what we heard. There is probably nothing political about Rafale. It was a defense deal. Ayodhya was an issue about whether Lord Ram, amongst other things, Lord Ram was born in that place, etc., etc., etc. So I don't see, and the case has been going on since, the problem has been going on since pre-independence times. What is political about it except that politicians talk about it? Or some might want to derive political mileage from a controversy. We are not involved in politics as courts. We decide a case that comes up before us, brought to us by parties who have something to say and who have a claim, and we adjudicate that claim. What is politics in it?
So you didn't feel extra pressure while you all were hearing and eventually delivering the judgment in a case like Ayodhya?
No, possibly a greater sense of, possibly some sense of anxiety on what it might, what effect it might have on the body politics to some extent, but not the political kind.
The reason I'm saying this, sir, is that there is a huge question mark over whether the Supreme Court is truly independent today. And that includes truly independent.
Independent of what?
Independent of executive interference or executive pressures. I quote a senior Supreme Court advocate, Dushyant Dave, he's also headed the Supreme Court Bar Association, said judges are scared of the Modi government and reluctant to rock the boat.
Well, I don't think I should respond to his views. I mean, he's entitled to his views, but I do not see any executive interference in the judicial process. I did not experience any. You could ask, you've invited other colleagues of mine today, you could ask them. You see, the way the executive can interfere is by having benches suitable to it in each case, and that doesn't happen. The benches, the roster is prepared by the Chief Justice of India, independent of any pressures.
But that itself has become contentious over times. You know how 4 judges staged a few years ago a remarkable press conference, an unprecedented press conference, where they questioned the manner in which allegedly bench fixing might have been taking place.
That press conference, I am not aware of the allegations of bench fixing, though there was something about the preparation of rosters.
Yeah, questioning over the role of the Supreme Court Chief Justice as master of the roster.
That, to my mind, is one of the most unfortunate events in the history of the Supreme Court of India. And I tried my best to see that it doesn't happen. And thereafter, I am saying this because some magazine has already written about my role there. And I did try to bring about a peace between the opposing points of view. I succeeded, party didn't succeed, but it's an unfortunate event. I don't want to, I don't support, I wouldn't have done it myself.
You believe it's an unfortunate, you're saying something important. You believe it's an event that should have never happened. It's an unfortunate event. You don't subscribe to the way it happened. Let me give you examples, since you say you don't want to respond to what an individual advocate's opinion is. Habeas corpus petitions of those who were arrested, for example, in Kashmir, after the setting aside of Article 370. They were kept pending for months. You didn't touch the electoral bonds issue, sir, which again is politically a hot potato. All of this is being interpreted to suggest that the court and the Chief Justice's office unwilling to take on the government. People were for months in jail, sir, under the Public Safety Act in Jammu and Kashmir, habeas corpus petitions filed, and the Supreme Court of India does not see urgency in that matter?
I don't think they were kept pending deliberately as you people see it or anybody else sees it. And one thing I must tell you in this context, I believe, and it is said to be a law of how the human mind works, and that law is that a suspicious person always finds what he's looking for. It is true in the domestic front, it is true in politics, it is true in the executive, it is true in the media, it is true everywhere. You always find what you're looking for.
I'm only giving you a reality, sir.
No,
Hundreds of innocent people possibly were in jail for months. Habeas corpus is the basic right that I have under the Constitution.
First of all, it was during the pandemic.
Yes.
It was during the pandemic. It was difficult to get matters heard. I can tell you, I was not ready for this question. I can tell you hundreds of cases where the courts asked parties, would you like to hear? And parties said, no, we cannot appear. Advocates said they cannot appear. And it happened that there was something about the CAA matters were also pending then.
That's right.
And they wanted those to be heard. Now that involves allowing 500 to 600 advocates to enter the courts. That was not possible. And some of them said, no, we want our matters tagged, we will not get them untagged. But frankly, I would have liked to answer this question with statistics, which I am not ready for.
Okay. You were Chief Justice also, sir, during the contentious, I'll come to COVID later, during the contentious farmer agitation. And you stayed the implementation of farm laws until further orders. Now, traditionally, the Supreme Court, sir, has been very wary of passing interim orders that stay laws passed by Parliament. And yet you did so.
Yes, I did.
Were you aware again that, like it or not, you were stepping into a political minefield? You see, the court seemed to be stepping into a political minefield. The media reacts and then you say, oh, the media is dragging us into...
political minefield? There was a law before us.
Yes.
There was a challenge to a law before us.
Yes.
We were seeking the government's response to the challenge. We were reading stories and watching stories on the television about people attacking each other. Forces attacking each other, people jumping onto the Red Fort on the Independence Day, I think, and
Republic Day.
Republic Day. So many violent instances. I had stated to the other side, I stated to the government, why don't you consider doing this? Why don't you consider withholding the laws? Because look at the consequence. There is a law on one side and there is a large-scale violence on the other side. What is important right now? And there was no response. So I consulted my colleagues and we were all of the unanimous opinion that this should be stayed. What's political about it?
Okay.
There were no elections in the offing. And anyway, we have nothing to do with elections.
And you're very clear, at no stage has the judicial process been influenced, therefore, by the executive during your tenure.
Yes.
Okay. The tangle between the executive and judiciary, sir, over appointments. You were Chief Justice for almost 18 months, and during that period, not a single Supreme Court judge was appointed.
Yes.
Because the collegium system could not arrive at a consensus.
No, it is not because of the collegium system. It is because as a collegium, we were unable to arrive at a consensus. It is not because of the system. It is because we failed as a collegium to arrive at a consensus about the names.
Because a particular...
Or in some cases, about the order in which there should be an elevation.
Because there was a particular judge in your collegium who insisted that Justice Akhil Qureshi be elevated to the Supreme Court. The government didn't want his name.
Akhil Qureshi was one of the judges who was not appointed. There were many who were not appointed.
That's right.
They were all appointed afterwards.
But for 18 months, we did not have a single appointment to the Supreme Court.
Yes. So,
what does that suggest?
There have been periods when you haven't had elevation for 2 years. You haven't had elevation for longer. What is so extraordinary about this? We couldn't arrive at a consensus. It can happen in a human institution.
Do you believe, therefore, that there is a need to relook at the system as it exists? Why should judges, 3, 5 brother-sister judges sit together and decide on who will be their fellow judges? Should the executive have a greater say, as the executive seems to want? The law minister seems to be running a campaign calling for a review of the collegium system.
Let's not go by the government of the day, the law minister of the day, or the chief justices at the collegium of the day. I'll tell you what my perspective is.
Sir.
My perspective is that under the Constitution of India, there are 3 organs of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. They are separated in their functions and powers. They are not separated in their purpose and objective. The objective of all three has to be the common objective set out in the Constitution in the preamble. I consider it perfectly legitimate that the executive has a vital interest in who is going to be a judge. Apart from the fact that they are the executive and one of the organs of government, they are also the largest litigant in any court. Now the problem is not that they have an interest in it. The problem is how to give effect to that interest. Earlier, it was only the Chief Justice of India who decided it along with the government. Sometimes the Prime Minister, the executive, the law minister. Then came the two judges case. It was widened. The Chief Justice of India's power was shared with the collegium. Power and responsibility. It was also, you brought in more fresh views on the same elevation. Then came the parliamentary law NJA, National
NJC.
Judicial NJC. That provided a wide representation to all kinds of opinions, including to social workers, eminent people. The Supreme Court did not agree with it, and they struck down that law. They also struck down the constitutional amendment on the ground that the independence of the judiciary expressed through the appointment of judges is a part of the basic structure. So there was no say to the executive formally. And that is as it is at the moment.
Do you support that?
What?
You believe that the executive should have no say in the appointment?
I don't support it. I started by saying that they have a vital interest in the...
Should they have a veto power?
No. They shouldn't have a veto power. The primacy of opinion must be that of the judiciary. The reason is, we know what is the caliber, the merit, and the suitability of the judges who are to be elevated. We have seen them right from the days they were lawyers. We have heard appeals against their judgments. We know how they think. We are best positioned to see which judge is meritorious. But those judges of the superior court, we are only talking of superior courts, because in the 70% of the judiciary, the public service commissions appoint them, which includes the government.
Yes.
We are only talking of High Court and Supreme Court. These courts, these judges have to take an oath of office. That oath of office says that I shall uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India, that I shall uphold the Constitution and the laws, and other things.
Yes.
It is important that a judge can do that as a judge. And on these aspects, it is often the executive's opinion which is vital. For instance, when the Intelligence Bureau reports to us, things like what are the activities of this judge. Now, you imagine a situation, a gross case, where one of the candidates is of the opinion that India should not be a sovereign entity like it is. There should be a separate state somewhere. Separate means outside India. The executive is in the best position to tell the court that this is not a suitable candidate, the collegium. So the executive's opinion is important. With or without the NJC, I have full respect for the judgment of the Supreme Court. I am saying that consultation with the executive can be made by the Chief Justice of India and the collegium. Their views taken, but I believe the primacy must remain with the Chief Justice or the collegium.
Okay, I think you've been pretty clear, categorical in that sense now about that. Consultation, but the final say must remain with the collegium is what you're telling me.
And consultation, I do not mean concurrence.
Okay, point taken. So we have very limited time left, but I'm going to ask you some more. Let's lighten the mood. The most difficult case in your career?
It's a case I didn't decide, but I'll tell you some. I mean, there was a laborer who was charged with rape and murder of a young girl.
Yes.
And and that chap had been convicted. When the appeal was pending, the investigating officer committed suicide, saying that I have been forced to implicate this chap. And he managed it successfully. The High Court agreed that his suicide note is true. And we were hearing an appeal. Obviously, he ought to have gone scot-free. This is Lalit, the expert in criminal law. But I took the view that we should not acquit him till we prosecute these prosecution witnesses who had lied through their teeth. And there was a difference of opinion between my colleague and me. He said, no, we'll just let him go. I said, no, we must prosecute him. Fortunately, unfortunately, the bench changed. And I couldn't decide that case, but I have never been so foxed in a case as in this one. Because the suicide note was not part of the trial record.
It's interesting you're saying that, because your one judgment did create a lot of controversy, where you, not judgment, but an observation you made in court, where you suggested to a rape victim that she marry.
I didn't.
This is what was reported.
I'll tell you what happened.
That she marry her alleged rapist.
Frankly, I want to tell you what happened because I haven't got a chance to tell anyone what happened.
Please do.
The boy and the girl had a love affair. They were related to each other distantly. They had a love affair, and the parents on both sides objected because they were spending a lot of time together. So they told them, you get married. You can't carry on like this. They had an affair for 7-8 years. And they signed an agreement that we'll marry. Now that chap came in appeal. He applied for bail. And that woman then said that I'll prosecute you for rape because we've been having sex and you haven't married me. So his bail was rejected. He came by way of a bail application before the Supreme Court. I told him that what is this matter? You've been living together and there is this agreement on record which you have signed to solve this family dispute. Right. And are you going to get married or not? That is what I asked.
Okay.
Just a minute. And then I rejected his bail application because they said, no, we have not married. I haven't followed this agreement. I rejected his bail application. And these intelligent people in society wrote to me saying that you must review your orders. Means what? Grant him bail. Absurd thing.
Okay, this is the danger of obiter dicta.
Yeah.
Making headlines. But my final question is, there was a nice picture of you on a Harley Davidson. We haven't seen too many CJIs on a Harley Davidson. You're a Mobike fan. We didn't know it till then. Any regrets about posing there in...
I wasn't posing. Somebody got that Harley Davidson. I sat on it. And there was somebody who had nothing to do with anything who took a picture and sent it to her lawyer husband.
Right.
And that is how it went around. I didn't ride it. I only sat on it, though I would have liked to ride it, I will tell you that. It was COVID times, a lot of, you know the rest. But frankly, I became very popular with the younger crowd.
You did. and you've also become very popular among judges because during COVID times, you brought in online technology to encourage more and more people to appear before court. It's now hybrid, and I think it's made a huge difference to the courts, and that will be one of your many abiding legacies, Justice Bobde. But thank you so much for joining us and giving us your perspective. Appreciate Justice Bobde there taking those questions. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you raise a warm applause for Justice Bobde, may I please call upon Mr. Virendra Kumar Kasliwal to come up on stage. He's the Chief Financial Controller. Sir, just 2 minutes, sir. To come up on stage and present a small token of our appreciation to Justice Bobde.
It's not a Harley Davidson, don't worry. You have one. Wow. Thank you so much, sir. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
That's not it.